Welcome to the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast, part of the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast network, where we put the power of dynamic fitness back in your hands one mental rep at a time. Effective thinking for potent fitness. Welcome to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast. We are on season 6. I'm here, Jennifer Schwartz, with my co-host, Angela Damolin.
Hello.
And this season is dedicated to technology that enhances healing, wellness, fitness, and maybe all three. This episode today, we have another guest with us. And I'm just so keen to discuss some of the things outside of wonderful supplements and nutrition, which is hormones and some lifestyle factors. Today we have Emily Joy Wellness, aka Emily Bruckner of Hot Healed Girl Podcast. And welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, and Angela's here, as I said before, and I'll just kind of set up the premise for my intentions. You know, I always have one intention, which is to take money out of the pharmaceutical and orthopedic doctors' pockets. So just so you all know, and side note, all things have a purpose, right? But more. Importantly today, I want to really dive into our, how we choose supplements and think about hormones, because at the core of my personal philosophy and my health philosophy is that the body is complex, which is not complicated. It just means it's really good at self-correcting and protecting itself and self-healing. And at the core of that is, I guess, input and hormones and communication. So I think that sets us up. What do you think, Angela?
Beautiful, yeah.
You gotta grab the microphone, girl.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm looking forward to hearing her take on all of that, and seeing what we get to dive into today to not only, take money away from big pharma, but put it back into our listeners' pockets, and especially, in their wealth of health. So I look forward to hearing everything that you're going to add to that.
Yeah, I love that phrase, for sure.
So please introduce yourself, Emily.
Sure. Well, my name is Emily Bruckner, and I am a certified health coach in transformational nutrition. I've been doing that since 2019. Recently also became certified in functional blood labs, and I'm not sure when this episode is going to be out, but probably by the time you hear this, I will also be MBSR certified. So just a little extra emotional component to put together there. When I went to school, I spent probably 6 months researching nutrition schools once I finally decided, this is what I want to do. And I have always been a big proponent of applying, the emotional healing with the nutritional healing. And that's what ultimately drew me to the school that I went to, because they didn't just teach you nutrition. They combined nutrition with psychology of nutrition, and then also, with the emotional aspect of nutrition. So it was the 3 parts just kind of all put together. And so, yeah, I've been doing that since I started coaching, but I think just really in the last year have really gotten into the emotional side of healing and hormones and all of that good stuff.
I heard you and Courtney have a good cry on your podcast. Not literally, but you were talking about crying.
Yeah, we were talking about crying, yes.
And what is MBSR?
So it's called Mind, Body, Spirit Release. We just had our first class yesterday, so I don't know if I can even properly explain it. We do actually have a podcast episode on it. with one of the founders, Amanda, and it's actually one of our most popular episodes to date. So, everybody is obviously on the same wavelength as us, healing those emotions. But it works, kind of via the same way muscle testing does with like energy fields. And so it's identifying where emotions are held in your body and like what emotions they are. And so you identify that basically via muscle testing. And so say like Courtney did a mini session on me a couple weeks ago, and the organs that came up for me that were holding emotions were thyroid, lungs, and what was the other one? I think kidneys. And then it also brings up like emotions that need to be cleared as well. So I think it was like grief and overwhelm were two of the ones that I had. And so it kind of goes in layers, like peeling those onion layers as far as emotions go. You get that one session and it brings up the most immediate things for you. And then, your practitioner will basically uses a cold laser to clear the energy meridians and release those emotions. And this can be done either in person or you just do it by proxy, like virtually. And, once you clear that initial one, it's generally recommended to do more than one session, but a lot of people will notice a difference just with the first session, just releasing those really heavy ones that are kind of more immediate at the moment.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, just light things like that. This is so fascinating to me. My first question is, how long, and maybe this is varied, but when an emotion gets released or it's found and then the laser is applied, or and I'm guessing, there's a co-participation with the client who's like willing, right? There's always that piece. But how long does that emotional release last for that one session?
That's a good question. And honestly, I don't know if I have the answer to that. I really do think it varies on the person. Like if you're continuously being exposed to something that's bringing up that emotion, then of course it's gonna resurface. A lot of times, from what I've heard, like I said, I haven't done a lot of experience myself with this. It's just been what I've had done on myself since I just started the class. But from what I've heard, if it's like really old traumas, like not something that you're exposing yourself to right now, or not something that's happening to you right now. A lot of times, like I said, there is layers to that trauma. So you'll release the initial layer and then, it's gone. And then, so you'll do some more sessions and there'll be different things come up connected to that. So like I said, I think it just depends on the person and how many layers they have to that trauma, how they're constantly re-exposing themselves, if they're, like working on it in other ways.
That makes total sense to me. And what certain emotions may be hiding that, I can access anger, but I can't quite get to that grief. It sounds like this might be one technology to unearth what's underneath. The reason I was asking in particular is because I think one of the scariest things about those heavy emotions is people don't know how long they're going to endure that, and so it's like, well, if I can get like, okay, it's going to be 30 seconds of really terrible like wailing, and then there's some sense of release. But I understand that like nobody has that exact answer. My real also question is, how do you determine or distinguish between like an emotional release and like an indulgence? Because oftentimes we can get addicted to the chemicals that come along with those emotions, and I've definitely been guilty of that in the past.
It's like you know, like when you're cooking and you get that like fried stuff on the, on the pan, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Like, ooh, and this anger and grief feels familiar, and it tastes a little delicious because I know that there's safety there, and maybe even I'm a little scared of joy or scared of what would my life look like if I weren't anxious.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about that kind of something very similar on our podcast a lot too, where like people don't want to heal because they're addicted to the identity of like whatever their disease is. So like I use my example for like painful periods, you know, you can get out of a lot of things when you have painful periods. You can use it as an excuse to get out of school, get out of work, stay home for the day. And if you're constantly like thinking every single month, you're like, oh, my period's going to suck. Like it's going to be awful, this, that, whatever. But you're like, oh, but I get to stay home from work. I don't have to like, my husband or my partner will pamper me, like bring me food, all this stuff. Like you're addicted to that. And like, that's your identity. You identify as, you know, someone who has painful periods. So that was like a big mindset shift for me there. And I know this is a long-winded way to answer your question, but it was a big mindset shift for me when I finally was just like, you know what? No, like my periods are great. I don't have to stay in bed every month. I don't have to take off of work. I was like, I would rather be working. I would rather be making money. And I kid you not, it was a combination of many things, of course, but that is when my periods definitely took a shift for the better.
Wow.
For sure. And so, yeah, I think and that's what I like about MBSR too, is because, like with the trauma techniques that I learned in school, you have to sit there and it's a little more like a therapy session in a way. Like you talk through things, and it does get very intense. Like almost everyone cries when I do that with them. Almost everyone, you know, like brings up those big emotions, and it is intense. It does work, but it is intense, and it's not for everyone. Like not everyone was ready to do that. And so that's what I like about MBSR, is because like I can really do it virtually with someone. And as long as, you know, like I let them know like, hey, like think about your happy place. Like, do you accept me like doing this to you? They don't really have to do a lot. Like it's just that energy connection and just clearing that. And a lot of people will say that they feel a release afterwards, just like feel lighter. And yes, you know, some people will tell me that, or obviously not me since I haven't done it yet, but other practitioners that I know have said that they will tell them that, you know, they do feel like they need to cry afterwards, or like the next day they'll have a big cry, but it's not like it's bringing back up that trauma, bringing back up those emotions. It's more so, like I said, it's just clearing them out. Like they're just releasing.
Well, that, I mean, just sounds good to me. I'm like, how fast can I Google this? And
yeah, well, like I said, we do have an episode on it. Amanda's amazing. It's a really good episode. I actually wasn't able to be on that episode due to technical difficulties that day. And so I went back and listened to it myself. And at the end, I was like, all right, you convinced me. I'm signing up to do MBSR. Yeah. So it's a great episode if you want to, you know, get more details on it.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I was a fan. I didn't hear that one. Damn. So, like into, first of all, long answers only. That's one of my hashtags. And I did want to circle back, or just start the circle really, to like the reductionist mindset and how problematic that is for someone like a health coach trying to work with hormone, I don't know, feedback issues or just hormone balance issues. How are you able to help people see a bigger picture when it comes to hormones, instead of somebody just saying, oh, this is high and this is low.
What's your way in?
What's your way in? Yeah.
So yeah, hormones are tricky. They definitely are, because like I tell everyone that I work with, your body shuts your hormones off first. It's the first thing it shuts off. So because it doesn't consider them necessary to your survival. Because we're always in a constant state of stress, and that's usually what shuts hormones off. And so your body doesn't perceive that as necessary to live. So if your hair's falling out, if your periods are awful, like those are the two things to go. Your hair is also not necessary to survive. And they are the last thing to come back. So they are tough, when people come to you and they're like, hey, my progesterone's off, or my estrogen's high, or my periods are terrible, or my periods are non-existent. And, they want those immediate results. Like they want to just take this supplement and their period will come back. And 90% of the time it doesn't work like that, because your body will balance everything else out first. And usually there's a minimum of 3 things that need balancing, usually more. But your body's going to balance everything else out first before it turns those hormones back on, because it needs everything else to be functioning before it will allow your hormones to function. So they are definitely tricky, because like I said, everybody wants that immediate fix. They don't want to spend time working on something. But I always tell people, think about how long it probably took you to get to this point. It's going to take you a long time. Not as long, but it's going to take you a while to switch everything back the way it needs to be. And so, yeah. How I start.
Well, I can relate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't like to throw a lot at people at one time, because when we first start out, that's way too overwhelming for them. And so I like to dial it in and get very personalized on, like what their specific body needs at this time. And so my initial symptom assessment form is really in depth. And so I'll take that and I'll take like the top 3 things that are coming up right now, and we'll address that. And then we'll kind of just go from there. And then I'll also usually analyze their blood labs, or we'll do a Dutch test or some type of, like either urine or saliva hormone test, if, they want to spend the money on that, or if that's something that they want to do. And then I will just, like pick the top 3 triggers from there. But I really try to not throw this giant protocol at someone right off the bat. It's definitely, it's like those baby steps, and it's going to take you a minimum of really 3 months to see any type of shift in your hormones.
Wow. I can definitely relate. Yeah. I mean, man, I'm so proud of my sleep now. So proud. And I'm just, able to fall right asleep. And I say this all because when I first got into protocols and supplements, and side note, the reason why I love, Hot Healed Girl and you and Courtney, is because I was turned on to y'all through CellCore, which is such a, an amazing technology. If I could, and I don't know how to explain, their binders and all that to my clients that well. So, and as you know, I've expressed interest in having you all present to my clients and our clients. But anyways, the first protocol-based stuff I was ever exposed to was because of estrogen dominance.
Yep.
And looking at that from a fat storage lens. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this man. His name's Charles Poliquin. No.
It sounds familiar, but don't ask me what he does.
Okay. Well, in the strength training world, he's super well known, and he was pretty advanced as far as like protocols go, and helping people advance their body composition goals through body fat site testing, which would tell the practitioner about different dominances as far as like sleep and hormones go. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's a lot of people could be labeled estrogen dominant based on, you know, all the microplastics and all that stuff going on. But it was a lot of supplements. It was a lot of change. It was, you know, it didn't look too much at my, you know, I guess nutrition profile, but threw me on, you know, what was then paleo, which is probably now more keto. I don't know. And a lot of digestive enzymes, and it was a lot. So, and it was overwhelming to me to learn about how alcohol was affecting everything, how things that I thought were normal were impacting my health so negatively. And yeah, I was so overwhelmed. I stayed with it somehow for a while and did learn a lot about stress and sleep, but it wasn't a 3-month journey, that's for sure. I'll tell you that much right now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, the sleep and the estrogen dominance are two of the things that I see quite overwhelmingly, and that's definitely two of the things that I dealt with for sure. The sleep, the insomnia is actually also why I got into CellCore, because I was like, I had these like lingering symptoms, and I was just basically like at my wit's end. And I saw somebody doing the full moon challenge, the parasite protocol, and I immediately hopped on Dr. Google and was like, all right, I have to try this. And everything just kind of spiraled from there.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, we have lots of comments about all of our Dr. Google searches. I mean, I think like the thing that I hope that my podcast listeners, our podcast listeners get and gain is that, you know, having a reductionist mindset when it comes to, you know, how do I fix this one thing is, it's not, there's better use of our time. And it's not, obviously I can't say anything's a waste of time because we don't know outcomes or, you know, the butterfly effect of these things, but things are complicated, and I just really hope that through conversations like this, we start to open up to the multifactorial approach to health, fitness, wellness, and feeling fine. Angela, what do you got?
Yeah,
I know you got something.
It's a whole paradigm shift, you know, and I really appreciate what you said about sort of measuring how you deliver that initial information to your client who, like, we share that same both desire to get at the root cause, and also we're up against a culture that's built in these thought processes. Oh, well, maybe I just need a new shampoo, right? Or like I'll take Advil or something like this for my period. And so it's a hard sell. Like, okay, it's going to be 3 months. And guess what? Here's the other thing. All these terrible emotions that you stuff down, they're going to come up, and it's going to feel initially maybe like you're getting worse. And so that's really, you know, we've tried to educate and empower our clients to understand, like we were saying, these things have been going on for a long period of time, and the body's been amazing at adapting, and what you're calling a problem is the body's intelligence at work. And so oftentimes the symptoms go away in reverse order in which they appeared. And there's a lot of things that if people have been, their innocent hearts have been incapable or unwilling to feel, then they totally tune out, and they can't even sense maybe some of the other real problems, like maybe their heart palpitations, maybe there's like maybe just bad digestion, or what we would what we would classify as challenged digestion feels normal to them. Like maybe laxatives are their go-to, like they don't know what a normal poop is like, or something like that. So, it's really an interesting challenge to find the way in, like we were saying. And so, can we dangle that carrot of lustrous hair, like to get them towards the finish line? So, is there, I guess it's just a question of readiness. How do you have in your intake form, or how do you evaluate someone's readiness, or is it just a matter of planting seeds? How do you approach that?
So I do an initial free discovery session, and I think that's where I really, I do an application before that, but that's really how I evaluate how ready they are, and if we're really going to be a fit to work together, because not everybody is going to vibe with how I vibe, and that's totally okay. But yeah, I'll hop on that with them, and we'll just get to know each other, chat. I get a little just background history, where they are, where they want to be, and yeah, that's just kind of how we figure out where we go from there. And I think that's, to me personally, that's my favorite way, because, it's face to face and you just get a little time to chat and get to know each other.
Mm. Yeah. What do you find, I guess you work a lot with the period complaints. So where do you start with that? I mean, I can't totally relate to that, but I know that there's, people listening that have, obviously, period problems. How prevalent is that? I can't remember my first question.
Yeah. I would say, honestly, I think about 70% of women deal with some type of period pain.
Wow.
And a lot of them are actually a lot more extreme than people realize. But like you said, everyone's just so indoctrinated that this is normal. This is what you're supposed to deal with every month. And this is how periods are supposed to be. You take that Advil, you take that ibuprofen, and you just kind of suck it up and deal with it. And I dealt with years of awful periods. I would be in bed for 12 to 24 hours, could not move. There was no way I could go to work. There was no way I could go to school. Absolutely not. I see these girls that say they have painful periods, and then they're taking an ibuprofen and going to work. That I could not do that. Even if I took an ibuprofen, it would dull the pain, but it would not eliminate it. There were times that I would just be laying on the bathroom floor because I was so nauseous that it would make me throw up. But then I also couldn't eat anything because that would just make the pain worse. So yeah, it was fun times, but yeah, everybody sees that and they're like, oh, well, that's normal. You're supposed to have period pain every month. It is not normal to have that intense of period cramps, whatever. Nausea, 100% not normal. A little bit of cramping here and there. Yeah, that's normal. Your uterus is contracting. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But not being able to move, not being able to get out of bed, totally not normal. So thankfully, I do not have to deal with that anymore. I have reversed that. Now I just deal with, light cramps every now and then. I do still a lot of times just hang out in bed the day of my period because I have a job that allows me to do that. And rest and sleep is super important the first day of your cycle because, your body's expelling a lot of energy, just shedding that uterus lining. But, yeah, if I had to, I could get up and go to a physical job or do what I need to do.
Well, I'm glad you couldn't just mask your symptoms and you had to sit with it and go through that because you're gifting the world lots of wisdom.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone tells, I talk to so many people and they're like, yeah, I have to schedule my vacations around my period, or I have to schedule, work trips around my period, or even like holidays. I'm always stressing, like, is it going to come on the holidays? Am I going to deal with it? One year, I had it show up on both Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that was when I had really painful periods. So I was like, I couldn't even enjoy the holidays. I couldn't even do anything with family on the holidays because I felt so miserable. And so I'm like, why wouldn't you want to change that? Like, why would you not want to reverse that so you can actually enjoy your life and not have to stress every single month?
Man, okay, so I have like 3 follow-up questions. One, I guess now that I know 70% of women are abnormally menstruating, or pre-menstruating, I don't know. One, what's normal, or what should be our new normal, or back to old traditional normal, back to my grandma's normal. Number 2, I've got a hot take that I want to get off my chest about young women learning to numb themselves with birth control. Oh boy. That's a big can. A big can of Olipop. We're looking for a sponsor.
That's a whole case.
That's a whole case of Olipop. And then number 3, oh man, what's in your tool shed, in your she tool shed for how, maintaining the reversal of this? So which one do you want to tackle first?
I guess we'll just start with the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, so a normal period, it's going to range anywhere from 3 to 7 days. It's going to obviously vary on every woman. I would say the most average is about 4 to 5 days. And you really shouldn't experience any cramping at all. Like a lot of the times on the first day, you will experience some minimal cramping, some light cramping here and there, but it shouldn't be anything that's going to take you out, make you have to lay down, stay in bed. You're going to want to look for blood that is essentially pretty bright red. You don't want really dark red. You don't want like stuff that looks thick and clotty and brown. Brown blood is old blood, so it's not that fresh period shedding blood that you want. A lot of clots can indicate potential like extra fibrous cysts in there, which don't let that scare you. That's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of women with estrogen dominance will deal with cysts or just like extra fibrous layers in their uterus, and it comes out when it sheds, but that will lead to more pain due to a lot of the extra clotting that's going on. And a lot of women with estrogen dominance will tell me that their periods are extremely heavy, extremely full of clots, and that usually lasts for 2 to 3 days. So your heaviest flow should be on your first and second day, and then, the days following, it tends to be pretty light on a quote unquote normal period. And after you pass day 2, you really shouldn't notice that you're having a period at all, other than, obviously changing your cup or your tampon or your pad or whatever you use. It shouldn't be an issue at all. And, you shouldn't be dealing with extreme PMS beforehand. You shouldn't be experiencing those headaches. You shouldn't be experiencing sore breasts. You shouldn't have bloating. You shouldn't have extreme cravings. You shouldn't have extreme mood swings. I know that, those emotions that pop up, like that rage and then the sadness, you shouldn't have extreme levels of that. It's normal to have some mood swings just because of how your hormones drop right before your period. Another thing, I know you mentioned you listened to our crying podcast, but for anybody that hasn't listened to our podcast about crying, I talked about how crying actually releases estrogen. Oh. And so a lot of women will tell me, like, I just can't stop crying before my period. I'm so emotional. Like, I feel like everything makes me want to cry. And a lot of times they have estrogen dominance, and that's your body trying to release estrogen some way, somehow.
Yeah, that definitely rang true for me when I heard that. I was like, I've also heard like tears are a detoxing
Yes.
mechanism. But to learn that it was an estrogen detoxing method, I was like, yes,
It's amazing.
yeah, I think so too. I wonder if our alien ancestors know about this. I don't know. Okay, so I mean, I know. Okay, think fit, be fit, friends. I know I've said that this season is about technology and this and that, and it sounds like we're talking really about just human anatomy, and we are, and that's because, like, I mean, I think there's just like such intelligence in the body. Hormones,
hormones are a technology all on their own, honestly.
Yeah,
because
Speak.
they just function. Their functions are they're so technical, and like I say it all the time, like hormones are the most finicky thing on the planet. Like one wrong little twist and everything's just like it goes crazy.
Yeah. Because and especially like I don't think most people even understand the female perspective that it changes, almost day to day, not exact, week to week for sure.
Yeah.
That the cycle of hormones change, and it is a delicate thing. And that it's just, and it's a universal joke or humility that men's are nice and consistent. They have their waves in and out for the day.
Yes.
And, scratch your balls and turn over. I don't know. Like, yeah.
Literally.
Oh, man.
Yeah. 24-hour cycle. Same thing every day. It must be so nice. Whereas women, we have essentially 4 phases to our cycle. And this is something that I love, like at cycle syncing. I'm just so passionate about it. I love it so much. I'm actually working on a cycle syncing boot camp to bring to everybody. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, it's 4 phases to your cycle. Obviously your menstrual phase, which...
Are there witches at this boot camp?
I don't know any, but some,
just
send them my
an
way.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have your menstrual phase. Obviously everybody knows that one. But most women aren't familiar with the other 3 phases. And in my opinion, this should be something that you learn in school.
Back to my birth control thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'd like to know, because I'm one of those young women that were thrown on birth control too young, and it absolutely impacted my adult body and my growing body and my knowledge of how my body worked, and dare I say my sexual promiscuity. I was more promiscuous because of it. Yeah. And I didn't know how to listen to my body because of it. So there's just like multiple problems. So yeah, please teach me. Please teach my 41-year-old ass about the other 3 cycles.
Yeah, so the other 3 phases are, some people call the menstrual phase the first one. Some people call the follicular phase the first one. Me personally, I like the follicular phase as the first one because, it's after everything has shedded, everything's released, and you're kind of like starting fresh again. And so the follicular phase is going to be right after your period ends. And it's when your hormones start picking up again, your energy starts picking up again. You'll have more progesterone. You're going to be in a better mood. Your metabolism is actually lower. So this is like when you work out, because that's my favorite thing about cycle syncing is you can apply it to your meals. You can apply it to working out. You can apply it to your life, to your work, to your social aspects. And once you know the basics, it's so easy to just incorporate into your life, and it has such a big impact on your overall hormone cycle. But yeah, your follicular phase is when, workout wise, it's actually more conducive for you to be able to lose weight and put on muscle. just because of the fact that you don't actually have to eat as much during this phase. Your body is not requiring as much calories because your metabolism is slower, and it's going to be in a more optimal fat burning state. And so this is when you'll want to start picking up a little bit more intense workouts. You'll do a little bit heavier lifting. And as your follicular phase progresses, it's usually about 7 to 10 days, depending on how long the length of your total cycle is. And so by the end of your follicular phase, you're going into your ovulatory phase. And this is when your mood is going to be, at that all-time high. Obviously, ovulation, that's when we want to attract a mate. That's when we want to naturally make babies. It's when you're fertile. It's when you can get pregnant. And so like your progesterone will be up, and they call that the sexy hormone because, it makes your skin look good. It makes your mood high.
I'm about to ovulate.
There we go. You're glowing. You're glowing. I can see it. But yeah, you're going to feel more social. This is when your energy is going to be at the highest. So, I'm personally not a huge fan of cardio when it comes to hormone balancing, just because it can be a little bit of a stressor. But if you're going to do a more intense workout, these are like the 3 days to be doing it. Technically, ovulation is only 1 day, but sperm can live for up to 5 days. So you do want to be aware, like if you're having sex before this and you're not wanting to have a baby, just be aware of that and use some type of protection there. But yeah, that's when you're going to feel the most social. You'll want to go out and do things and all that kind of stuff. And so that's when I'm like, schedule your social outings. If you're dating, this is when the best time to go on a first date, because you're going to be, and just the way your body processes and your brain processes words, it's when you're going to be the most vocal. It's going to be when you're able to talk the best. And so it's the best time to do any type of presentation for work. Like I said, any type of social event, all that kind of stuff. And then after that is your luteal phase. And this one's usually a little bit longer, about 9 to 14 days. And this is when your progesterone starts declining and estrogen starts to tick up a little bit, preparing for your period. And so your mood's going to drop a little bit. During the first week, you can still continue to work out pretty decently, but the week before your period, it's actually better to just stick to lighter workouts like Pilates, yoga, not hot yoga, not hot Pilates, because your body's more sensitive to heat during this time. And so you don't want to like raise that internal core temperature, because during ovulation, your body temperature actually spikes up. And so if you track your basal body temperature for natural birth control or anything like that, you'll already know this, but that's how you know that you've ovulated. And then your body temperature stays up until right before your period, it drops again. And so your core temperature is naturally higher during this time. So you're going to do your lighter workouts, and then just a lot of walking, and also sleeping like the few days before your period. Sleep is actually a workout, and everyone loves me when I tell them this. I'm like, take your permission to, like, if you are going to spend 30 minutes at the gym that morning, like a couple days before your period, just sleep in instead, because that is actually what your body needs right now.
Yeah, that's so you're looking at two previous collegiate athletes who only know one word when you're just talking about all that, which is consistency.
Yes.
At
one point,
it's hard to swallow. Yeah.
Yeah. At one point, the U.S. women's soccer team actually trained their athletes using the cycle syncing method. So
yeah, that same woman works with the team that I work with now.
Okay.
Or
cool.
Dawn Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's like that's a hot topic amongst the ladies on this team now, and that they're getting cycle tested, and they're wearing Oura rings as well, which is new not open up this door, but female athletes haven't usually had the resources given to them for such things, or,
Yes.
we're just more interested in, being competitive, and somebody telling us not to be competitive is, again, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Once you get it dialed in and you
Yeah.
like actually start paying attention to your body and you realize, okay, hey, like I actually can perform better during this time. And if I rest and recover during this time, then my performance just gets better and better. And so like you can achieve just as much as men can, but you actually can do it in less time, which I think is great.
Oh, that's such another interesting thing, which is like the conditioning of being consistent comes from the man's world. It's like business.
There has been literally up until what was it? I think 1983 was the first time a woman was ever in any type of health study. And I saw something recently that, even in the 80s, it was very few women, and they certainly, weren't studying their hormonal cycles, and they weren't studying all the hormonal patterns. And I mean, that was the reason that we weren't used for studies, was because there's too many variables. So they just use the men because it's a 24-hour cycle. Everything can be the same every single day, but that doesn't apply to us. And so when you use all that information, it just doesn't work the same.
Do you want to ask about body temperature?
A topic near and dear to my heart. I just want to, acknowledge I really love what you're saying with respect to maximizing the potential that each phase brings. I think it's a whole other paradigm shift that allows us to make more gains, not less. And, if there's a championship on a day that you're menstruating, you can still win, right? But just work with your training, in advance of that. But the body temperature piece is huge with, I'm very curious about this, very interested about this in particular, because this is one thing that we started tracking with our clients as well. And knowing that a lot of people present with temperature in the 97s, like 97.1, 97.3. And so one of the things that, we encourage them to look at in particular is a thyroid, how that plays a role. I know it's more complex than that, but I would love to hear you talk a little bit more about how our listeners could use body temperature, even the men, to suss out potential hormonal imbalances, or what to ask for their healthcare provider when they're looking at temperature. Oh, one other thing before I would love to hear your responses. I actually had a doctor tell me, I went in and I was saying, oh, my temperature is 97.1. And they're like, oh, don't worry about it. That's totally normal. And I was like, wrong. You're totally wrong, because I'm here with a problem. So but anyway, so that's another sort of seed we like to plant, or shift the listeners' attention away from, just because something's normal doesn't mean it's healthy or optimal or for your vibrant health. So I would love to hear your take on body temperature and what we can how we can use that as technology and tool to interpret our own body's signals.
Yeah, the word normal from doctors is like it's my least favorite. It's my least favorite thing.
We're all triggered.
Yes, I shared a reel yesterday actually, and it was like of a woman. It was like point of view, me at my funeral, or my doctor at my funeral, and it was like the woman leaning over and she's like looking into the coffin and being like, "Hey, well, your labs came back normal, so I think you might just be faking it or something." I was like, oh my gosh. Because I hear that from everyone, they're like, my doctor says I'm fine. And then I'll interpret them from a functional standpoint. And there was like 2 low markers from the traditional doctor, and then I find 16. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, okay, so here's some things we can work on, And that's not to scare anyone either, because the great thing about functional blood work is that you can be very preventative about it. It doesn't mean that something is like totally wrong. Like when a doctor tells you that something's wrong, like then it's really wrong because it's like majorly off. And so when you look at it functionally, you can be very preventative about things, which is what I love about that. But yeah, back to body temperature. Like you said, a low body temperature can be very indicative of a thyroid problem. And actually, when I first started tracking mine, I already knew that I was like trending on the scale towards hypothyroidism. And I have since addressed that. But seeing my body temperature when I first started tracking that was like a big kick in the pants for me, because it was extremely low. Like it was in the 96s. And I was like, and even,
Okay.
yeah, like even
we're just trying to suss out alive and dead clients. Thank you.
Yeah. And so even when I would ovulate, it would like tick up to 97, but that was about it. And so, yeah, that was like I said, a huge kick in the pants for me. Now we're back on track, normal body temperature.
Woo!
But
welcome to the 98 club.
Yes. Yeah.
Hot heel 98 plus.
Hot heel 98.6.
I love that. Yeah. In the upper 97s is somewhat normal. Here I'm using air quotes. If you're in your follicular phase, so like right after your period, when you're, everything's kind of stabled out a little bit more for like a week or so. But, once you've ovulated and into your luteal phase, you definitely want to be like a 98 trending towards 99 for sure. It's like a healthy body temperature. But I'm a big fan of tracking your temperature, not only to just kind of keep a baseline on where your health and your hormones are at, but I also use it as a form of natural birth control. So there's so many different pieces of technology out there right now to track temperature and all that stuff. My personal favorite is the Temp drop. I know a lot of people love the Oura Ring as well. I just like the Temp drop because number one, I didn't want to spend the price tag on the Oura Ring at the time when I was getting into that. But the Temp drop is great because it's an armband essentially, and you just put it on your arm when you go to sleep. You like click it and it activates, and you put it on your arm and you just wear it overnight. And it's great because a lot of the original devices, like the Daisy thermometer was one of the very first ones that came out. There's a couple other thermometer devices, and some people will just use a regular thermometer, but you take that when you wake up, but you have to pretty much do it at the same time every day. And you have to do it immediately when you open your eyes. And so if you're not staying on top of that every single day, it can get a little tricky. And so what I like about the Temp drop, and then of course also the Oura Ring and devices like that, is the Temp drop tracks continuously all night long. So it's great for like postpartum moms or moms that are breastfeeding, like nurses that maybe work at night and so they sleep during the day, and so their schedule's a little off. If you wake up multiple times during the night, it continuously tracks. Whereas like if you just take your temperature in the morning, it's not taking into account all of those interruptions that might have happened during the night.
Yeah, well, I am satisfied with those answers. I like all that info, and just having more, I don't know, just robust information for our clients and for my own. I'm probably not going to take my temperature as soon as I open my eyes. I'll wear a device every once in a while, basically, is how I.
Yeah, and
because I'm not going to wear it every night. Yeah.
Yeah, the Temp drop, I guess for me, it didn't take that long to get used to. I do have some people that are like, I always forget to put it on. And so those people might do better with something like the Oura Ring where you just leave it on. But they're
not vibrant health enthusiasts. They're just meh health enthusiasts.
But yeah, I mean, if preventing pregnancy is important to you, or even, just like tracking your ovulation, if you're wanting to have a baby, that is really, really good, because it will also, like, you connect it to their app and it'll predict your ovulation, like when it's coming up. If you don't want to be like super calculated with tracking it on your own, and then it'll also, like predict when your period is coming. So It's a helpful device, and it's not incredibly expensive. I think it's under $140. So unlike the Aura Ring, it's relatively budget friendly.
Yeah. And that was, one of the goals of this whole season was to, talk to people who know what they're doing and they're well educated on these matters and like what's important to them. So, what's important to you for in this section of your health care closet, tool shed?
Liver support, I think for me personally is the most important thing. I think you had asked, and I don't know if I answered this at the very beginning of like, what's something that you like start people out with? And it's almost all of my clients, I will start them on some type of drainage or liver support, just because it is crucial for all types of hormones. Because your drainage is, everything from the obvious, like your colon, your bowel movements, your liver, to your lymphatic system. And hormones and toxins can hang out in all of those. So you really want to be supporting all of that so your hormones can process and eliminate properly. So liver support, I think, is the biggest one for me personally. Like I said, it is going to be different for everyone, but I do think almost anyone with a hormone issue can benefit from staying on top of liver support. So I love castor oil packs. I love TUDCA as a supplement. It's a star. TUDCA is a star. And just staying on top of your sweating, staying on top of your hydration, making sure that your body is just optimal for moving all of that out.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, three of the things that you just said are so cheap, I'm a big TUDCA fan too. It's one of the more expensive things I buy as far as supplements go, but it's definitely,
it is, but yeah, usually
it's amazing.
One capsule is enough for most people. And I mean, one bottle is a 2-month supply. So if you just use one capsule a day, it's not super expensive, but it is a little bit more the initial price tag.
Yeah. And castor oil packs, I mean, they try to like package them all fancy and cute, but it doesn't matter. It's not cute.
My mom made my castor oil pack, and so I just
like when I got mine, I got a Queen of Thrones one. He gave me all these instructions of how to take care of it. I was like, nah. Like, this thing is basically a sock, a big old sock. Thank you. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, replace it every 6 months. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I love my castor oil packs. But I have to like hide it from Yusuf because he's so clean. He's like he's a guy that has to have everything like, and the castor oil packs are like, I turn into a messy toddler basically if I'm not already. but they are amazing. Like, oh my God, they help me relax a lot, and I don't know why.
Yeah, if you're waking up in the middle of the night between like 1 to 3, 1 to 4, that's a big sign that your liver is full of toxins. And castor oil packs majorly support that. Almost everyone that tries them, like wearing them overnight, will notice an immediate difference with just staying asleep at night. And if they do wake up, I'll tell them like, put a little more castor oil on, just like rub that in there. If you have a red light, put the red light on there for a few minutes. They'll sleep like a baby.
Yeah, I rub it on my midsection before I sauna too sometimes.
Yeah, that's great too. You can also do it on your thyroid as well if you do have a thyroid problem. And again, combined with the red light is great.
Everywhere.
Okay, last question. Do you want to do the honors?
We would love to know, what is your favorite snack?
My favorite snack? Oh my goodness. That is a good question. I'm going to say right now, probably watermelon. I am just obsessed with watermelon.
Watermelon fan club over here too.
Yes.
That's what
yeah.
Yeah.
It's great for my kidneys. It's great for hydration. It tastes delicious. And
Yeah.
where I
I've
live,
heard
we're really close to Mexico, so we get really good watermelons from Mexico.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
I love that about
right
Texas. Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that like eating your hydration is actually more compatible anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Watermelon has a lot of electrolytes in it that people don't realize.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been snacking. Well, I've been on we've got the raw milk yogurt, which makes me very happy.
I will say, like also a recent obsession is the new Siete Puffs. If you have not tried their new lentil puffs, the queso ones, and the chili lime, those are amazing.
Haven't gone down that route.
On the list.
On the list. Hot tips coming in
They
from
are
Hot Healed Girl 98.6. All right. Well, tell everybody where to find you and anything special you have going on that you're offering.
So you can find me at Emily Joy Wellness pretty much everywhere. I am the most active on Instagram and YouTube. You can also find me on my website, and that has all the links to like work with me, this, that, whatever. If you want to see client reviews, they are also on there. Right now, like I did mention earlier, I'm working on the cycle syncing boot camp. I don't have a definite date for that yet, but it will be coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. And you can also work with me one-on-one. I love my one-on-one clients. I love working one-on-one. It's just so fun to just dive in and, figure out what's going on and build those personalized protocols and get everything back in balance. So you can find that on my website as well. And I do offer blood work interpretations as well. If you're interested in that, those are just like one-offs if you don't want to do a full protocol.
I think we could send some people your way pretty quick,
I've
actually.
already got a few in mind.
Yeah, I know. That's like a nice
I do,
idea, actually.
Athletes do actually like that, just like to see if there's anything little going on that they can tweak, whatever. It is not a protocol. Like legally, I cannot do a protocol with that, but I will give you all the notes of what I find and like suggestions and tips. And so it's just a nice review, and then you'll have the review document as well. The protocol only comes, with my coaching packages. And then of course I will also be offering the MBSR sessions one-off as well as soon as I'm certified in that.
Okay. Put me on that list. Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. And I think this was a really fruitful episode of Think Fit, Be Fit. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening and being a part of the Think Fit, Be Fit podcast network. Don't forget to subscribe and share this podcast with your friends and family. If you're interested in further resources, check out or visit our website, thinkfitbefitpodcast.com.